Welcome to TV Tangents with your hosts Rebecca and Natalie. Today we're recapping season 13 of the primetime drama Dallas.
Did you notice that the theme at the beginning is way more intense now?
It's so explodey.
It's very explodey.
Yeah.
And it's also like the music's a little bit different. And
Yeah.
it's just very like in your... It's very crazy.
They're like, dudes, it's the 90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
Love it.
My Amazon was being all weird with Dallas, and it would kick me out after a couple episodes. Like, it was like, girl, you need to get a life outside of Dallas.
Stop watching
You've been watching
Dallas.
Dallas for days. And I was like, Natalie said I have to watch it today.
Do it right now.
You were like, okay, like, seriously, I was in the middle of the season, and you were like, I started yesterday, so please be done tomorrow.
Right.
And I was like,
so true. Because I did. I had watched a couple episodes. I think we both did. Because at one point you told me you were like 2.5 episodes in. I was like, me too. And then I had this long period, probably because I was watching something else.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden I'm like, I better just watch those episodes at the beginning again because I already forgot what happened. So I started watching them, and then just like Dallas does every time, sucks me in, and I finished it so fast. So I was like, you need to catch up.
You were stressing me.
I was.
I'm going to call this season the Murder, She Wrote season.
Oh, yeah.
Because
definitely.
Ellie and Clayton's storyline is just constant murder mysteries.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh.
I
this
feel
what we're
bad
doing?
for them a little bit because it feels like they're just trying to give them something to do.
They were. They were
and
like,
I was like, meh. I mean, it kind of tied in when we get to that part of it about who it involved, and then it
it's
kind
fine.
of, but yeah.
Yeah, it was like, well, we don't know what to do.
I will say this, my very first line of my notes says, "What's up with the breakfast buffet?" So now at Ewing
That's right.
breakfast,
Yeah.
there's a buffet set up on Miss Ellie's side of the table. So the furthest from the door, there's now a buffet. Like, so before, Teresa is like bringing everyone their breakfast. And I mean, over the years, JR would be like, oh, Teresa, just some toast and eggs for me. Thanks. And every once in a while, Sue Ellen, I'll just take a grapefruit, and now there's a buffet set up.
Maybe they were
maybe
sick of
they're like, there's too many people coming in and out of South Fork. I can't keep track.
They used to do the buffet outside, though.
That's true.
When they would be outside.
You're right. If they were
they'd have
outside, they did do the
dishes.
buffet.
Yeah.
Interesting.
I would love to live there. Just be like, oh, it's time for my breakfast buffet.
Right? We have to live there.
So in the beginning, JR is all mad about the movie that Sue Ellen made about him. Remember, she has moved to England with her boyfriend. And so he goes to Sue Ellen's studio and starts like destroying random films because she made a movie.
Because she made the story of her life, basically, and made him look horrible.
Right. And then April's sister Shelley breaks into her apartment because we're supposed to think that it's Tommy.
Yes.
But it's actually Shelley.
Shelley
and then
comes
it's all
in,
tense, and now she's part of the cast.
Yeah.
For the season.
Yeah. Michelle, what's their last name? Stevens comes in. And she breaks in, and Bobby like tackles her, and then she's all like, hey.
Right.
And then April's like, Shelley, what are you doing here?
Saucy.
And she's very saucy. And she's, of course, she's gorgeous. And so
and
she
jealous of April.
Jealous of April. And you remember when April first started, it seems so long ago now. And she was all kind of, gold digger like and very just, I'm going to marry somebody for money. And she's become like this totally normal person who wants to be a business person and find her own way.
Yeah, I didn't like her in the beginning. And I remember in that season telling you, like, who is this lady? She's annoying. I don't understand it.
And now Shelley's, exactly. And now Shelley's kind of taken that over.
Right.
She ends up like glomming onto Cliff, who's all sad and mopey because of Afton and Pamela Rebecca.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah, because Afton shows up because she's doing like her nightclub act or whatever, and he finds out that she has a daughter named Pamela Rebecca, which I think is a great name.
It is.
But of course, Afton's all weird and shady, and she's like, "This ain't your baby," and then convinces him that she's not, but she actually is.
And they're kind of datey, like they're, when that all happens and everything. Because this is at the end of the last season, right? That this happened.
I think so. And then Afton's like, "Well, I didn't want you to like only date me because of my daughter, who is your daughter,
right?" Which she doesn't say. Like, she's like,
okay,
"You have to want me for me."
Yeah, but still, you also have to want your daughter.
Right.
Rude.
And this whole, the whole thing is, because this happens a little bit later on, but Cliff ends up finding out, like, he finds the guy who she was married to.
Yeah.
And then tracks them down in, like, South Carolina or something. Is that where it was? It was like, it happened a lot later, but it's kind of like the storyline just is kind of a quick wrap up. But it's like, he finds her. This guy has, like, a conversation with Afton and is like, "My baby, blah, 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 blah." And Cliff overhears the whole thing.
Because they know he's listening.
And then he leaves, and then she's all like, "Well, he can't know it's his daughter." And so we find out that she really is, but of course.
But he never does.
He never does.
I just want to tell you that guy is in the miniseries V, which I want you to watch, and I recently watched it.
Oh, you've told me about that multiple times. I'm going to have to watch it.
Okay. So there's a thing that JR tells a guy on the oil rig. He says the world is littered with the bodies of people who have tried to stick it to old J.R. Ewing. So that's telling us the soft J.R. Ewing that we saw last season is no more. He's decided he doesn't like being happy.
Yeah.
Is basically it. Because he's got like everything and he loves his wife and everything's great. And then he's like,
maybe I should be back to being the old JR that I am. Because, he starts to, like, start making deals without Bobby and starts to become, like, underhanded and crazy again.
And there's a mystery afoot with one of Jock's old war buddies. So Miss Ellie and Clayton have to go check it out.
Yeah, because they were sent a key at the end of last season. There was a key.
It was a mystery.
Mailed, and it was sent to Jock Ewing. And
the whole
like,
thing.
Da, da, da.
What is this? Oh my gosh, let's go.
And now April is getting these prank calls that they assume is Tommy, which you said. And it's just like, and she ends up like moving into South Fork because we better just do this so you don't get your crank calls anymore. Yes. And they follow her there. And then every time the phone rings is hilarious. They're like, the whole family's at dinner or they're like, they're barbecuing outside. And the phone rings because there's a phone outside too. And Bobby and April are like, oh, and they look at each other with this tense look because the phone rang and they're both like, do. Yeah. And then all of a sudden somebody's like, "Miss Ellie, it's for you." And then they're like, every time the phone rings.
Okay, well, you've got like 80 people to screen your calls.
I'm like,
so calm down.
You are the Ewings. People are going to call you.
Right.
It's not going to just be the crank
who
calls.
could that be? It can't be for any of the other 10 people at breakfast.
It's very funny.
Yeah, Tommy shows up at Ewing Oil. Now, Tommy is the bad boy. And he's all suited up and slicked back.
He's all, "I went to rehab. I'm totally changed.
I'm good now."
Yeah.
But he's also having a guy design a suitcase bomb for him.
That guy, who I think I have failed to look up, is so familiar from something else.
Yeah.
And I don't know
Probably
what it is.
Probably just other TV shows.
Probably. So
he brings his classic mysterious suitcase and he tries to leave it in Bobby's office. But Bobby gives it back to him. And I feel like this was like a test run. Yeah. Because after that, the guy is putting the bomb in the suitcase. But it wasn't in there before.
I guess not, because you're right. There was like a weird, like, new. So I thought that one did have the bomb because he was all mad when Bobby read it to him. But yeah.
Then he puts the bomb in Bobby's briefcase. And then there's like a bunch of scenes where people almost open the briefcase.
Like Christopher.
Christopher almost opens it. I'm like, you are not doing this to me because Christopher is the cutest. And he's the only person that's innocent at this point because John Ross is being a little stinker. So whatever. So they almost detonate the bomb until Bobby accidentally drops it off April's balcony.
Which was hilarious because wasn't it supposed to have like a present for her in it or something? And then he's like, she's like, give it to me, ah, ha, ha. And they're all silly. And then it flies off the balcony and they're both kind of just like, oh no. And then it explodes and they're holding each other like,
that's not supposed to do
holy
that.
buckets, what just happened?
So then Tommy goes to the house, to his dad's house, which used to be Ray's house, which I keep forgetting. I'm like, wow, they really live in close proximity to the Ewings.
Yes.
he goes and gets his dad's gun. And then they struggle. He and his dad struggle, and Carter shoots Tommy. Mm-hmm. So he's finally gone. We're done.
Which, thank God. And then, but it's weird because after that, like, and how was it Bobby? Did he trick Tommy into revealing himself or something? Or how did that? I can't even remember how that worked. Because they were like, oh, our own level of justice. Yeah. And he got him to admit it. Oh, I know why. Because, he brought in another briefcase. That's what it was. I couldn't remember. Bobby brought it in and he's like, here, da 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 da. And Tommy's like losing his mind, like, oh crap.
That's right.
And then Bobby opens it or something and he freaks out. But there was something else.
It's because the necklace that he was going to give April was in there. And then Bobby's like, well, why don't you open it and look at what I got for her or whatever. And he's like, no, I don't want to.
No, I'm good.
Yeah.
And he basically revealed it. So then that's how he ends up going back to Carter, of course. And there was and then Carter's like, obviously he just shot his son and didn't mean to, but then he's back to hating Bobby again because now you cost me my son, even though I shot him. But he wouldn't have got into this if he wasn't so built on
Carter's
revenge.
Always blaming everyone for everything that he did.
And before that though, that guy, first of all, Carter brings Rose back, right? Like his lady friend who
came out of nowhere,
who used to live in his house, and it was really weird, like she was like being kept there, like somehow invites her back. Tommy drives her off because he's like, well, she's a gold digger, I'm gonna get rid of her. And he made her feel horrible about herself and gets rid of her. And then some other guy who was like trying to do business with Carter, I think, and then Tommy starts talking to him, finds out something weird, pushes that guy in front of a bus. You remember that? They were like just walking outside. He pushes in front and then walked away. Yeah. And no one noticed that he pushed him. No. I think it made it look like he tripped.
Yeah.
But this guy just got killed by a bus and Tommy's like, huh, and he walks away.
See ya.
So, I mean,
we don't miss Tommy.
Don't want to speak ill of the dead characters. But he deserved to be shot by his dad.
And then after Tommy's funeral, April, like everybody goes to his funeral.
Everybody's there.
Like, why are you there?
Which is weird.
And April proposes to Bobby with a rubber band, but then he doesn't take her seriously, because she's a girl.
Right.
So he's like, oh, this is silly. You're not doing this.
You can't propose to me. No. Oh, and John Ross goes to London to see Sue Ellen.
Yes. Because JR told him he can see his mom anytime he wants.
Right. Which is funny because technically she still has full custody. But she's allowing him to stay there because he chose and it's his home.
Yeah, because the actor's still on the show.
Yeah, exactly.
And Callie has started painting.
Yes, with the creepy art gallery guy.
And Lucy is trying to get her stuff into galleries, which is not working. Because,
Well, but a couple people, I don't know. And then you wonder, did that guy hire people to be like, oh, I love your stuff and whatever.
No, I think it's just a lame plot point.
And I do like Callie and Lucy's little friendship that they got going on.
Because they're like the same age.
Well, yeah, exactly. And then it's sad though because Callie finds out that April slept with JR. And she turns it into this whole, she forgives JR, of course, because that's her husband, whatever. And this happened a long time ago. But now she thinks April has been lying to her and now she can't trust her.
Oh, yeah. She's so like, it's your fault that you slept with my husband before he was my husband.
And it's like, did you think that day one I should have been, oh, by the way, I slept with your husband? Because that seems like that would be rude.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the first thing you're going to say. Because then it sounds like you're bragging, like, well, I slept with him first. Right. So, like, she's mad because she thinks that she lied to her and now they're no longer friends. And I'm like, I don't understand that. That's weird. I like Callie, but it's very strange.
She's starting to see JR for who he is, but it takes her like a painfully long time.
It really does, yeah.
Like all season.
And she's still trying to hold on.
And Sasha Mitchell shows up at the Ewing Oil offices during Tommy's funeral. And he is best known as Cody on Step by Step, which will premiere in 2 years and star Patrick Duffy.
What are we going to watch next?
I know you've seen that whole show. That airs 4 months after the final Dallas episode. And he plays James Beaumont, who is the son of JR's old girlfriend, who he had run into when they were on their European vacation.
Vanessa Beaumont.
Yeah. But he threw up. Oh, my goodness. He grew up in France and has a Southern California surfer accent, which he at one point thankfully explained, because I was like, why? I out loud was like, why does he have a surfer accent? And then he was explaining it. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. He's just so funny because he is that guy. Just like, you know, I don't think he can be anyone else but talk like that and be that guy. So yeah.
And James goes to a job site with Bobby, who explains to him JR's entire plot of the last 12 seasons. He just like recaps it for him. Because of course we find out that James is JR's son. And he tells them over like family dinner at the oil barons.
At the oil barons. Yeah. So they're all there having.
There's a great
scene. And Vanessa is ready to leave town, and she wants James to go with her. And he's like, I kind of want to stay and talk to my dad. And she's like, well, he doesn't know. So like, let's not do this.
Yeah.
So they're all there and they're all having, and everyone's fighting over something. And JR starts talking about how Ray's an illegitimate brother because he's a half-breed and all of these things. So James gets up and is like, well, I want to make a toast to my daddy, J.R. Ewing.
Right. And Cliff and Shelly are at the bar and they're like, I'm sorry, what?
They're like, what just happened?
I have that scene on our TikTok.
Oh my God, it's so funny. Yeah, Cliff and Shelly kind of are dating in the beginning.
Yeah.
But then it's like April kicks her out of her apartment and she moves in with Cliff, but then they're really not dating.
Yeah, no.
Because then she starts dating James.
So Ellie and Clayton, after the whole... They find the Jock's like town full of people who call themselves Ewings. I don't know what's going on there because he saved them or something.
Here's what I wrote. Ellie and Clayton run all over finding weird leads and then find people that Jock smuggled out of Germany to save their lives from the Nazis. ... Strange story.
It was so weird. It was so weird. But then we just move right into...
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's what... Yeah, the town is called Pride. And then they try to get into a boarding house, but they can't. So they just buy the town.
Yeah.
And then everybody's Ewings and, whatever.
So weird.
Then there's an oil spill. And so the Ewings have a fancy dinner out to celebrate. And I think that's when James says that he's a dad.
And Cliff was leaving the company at that point.
He left to join Westar.
He didn't tell Bobby anything he was doing when he was chasing after Afton. Mm-hmm. And he was like, I got personal problems. And they're like, well, you need to be at work or whatever. And then he just kind of decided, I'm done with this. I don't want to be part of Ewing Oil anymore, so I'm out.
Yep. And John Ross, after we find out James is his brother, is having a crisis that he has this new brother. And JR has a talk with him. And he's all, I felt that way about Ray when I found out he was my brother, but I got over it. And I was the first one to welcome him into the family, and now we're as close as me and Bobby. Why you lie, JR?
Pinocchio, your nose is growing.
You lied right to your son, who's turning into you, by the way.
Yeah.
He really is.
Yeah.
JR says to Marilee Stone, if you don't hurry, somebody else is going to get your street corner. He is such a misogynist. Like, the things he says make me laugh, but they are really wrong.
Yeah.
He realizes he's a piece of crap.
Yeah.
And he's going to quit Ewing Oil for being a piece of crap. But then Miss Ellie gives him a note or a letter that his daddy wrote him when he thought he was dying. And he then changes his mind and he's like, oh, well, my daddy wants me to do this, so I'm going to be a bigger piece of crap than I was before.
I'm going to rule the world.
Crazy.
Oh, God. And that's when, Callie starts to think that JR is sleeping with Michelle.
Yes.
Because they were kind of having like some secret dealings and stuff.
They were at a hotel.
Yeah.
So she's like, this is a hotel. They're on an escalator. So they must be sleeping together.
And then like Michelle basically like says, oh yeah, it's true. Like she confirms it to Callie because she's trying to mess with her.
Yeah.
And so of course Callie is just mad and she goes to Alex, who's the gallery man who's already in love with her.
Oh, that guy is so weird.
He is very, very weird. But he's in love with Callie, and he even wants to like promote her stuff as Callie Harper and not Callie Ewing. Yeah. And she has a whole weird thing. But JR ends up, again, because he says it's just business, he sleeps with this committee lady who's in charge of helping decide whether the Ewings, this is when they had like, there was an oil tanker, oil business. So we're kind of like, Right. There was one of Carter's Westar ones got hit by a Ewing tanker in the ocean.
Yeah.
So now there's this, was it on purpose or on accident kind of thing? Well, turns into this whole thing. So this lady's on the committee. So of course, JR sleeps with her so that, he has her vote or whatever.
But I feel like he didn't do that until after Callie told him that she had slept with the art dude. Because then he was like, well, if you're going to do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah, it was kind of one of those, she thought, when she thought he was sleeping with Michelle. So she told him that she slept with Alex, even though we've come to find out she did not. Yeah. And Alex even confirms that because JR drives him out of town like he does everybody who is in his way. But then he ends up, sleeping with this woman.
And Callie finds out. Mm-hmm. And then she ODs on pills at
sleeping
Southwark.
Pills, yeah.
But then she's okay. So Westar has hired an ad company. And one of the ad people, there's a guy and a lady in episode 13. Maggie is played by Marla Maples.
Oh, yeah.
And she marries Donald Trump 4 years after this. Just FYI.
I forgot that she was in that episode.
And then Bobby's ex-flame, Kay, comes back, and April freaks out about it because we always have to have a thing making April freak out so we can remember that she's very emotional.
That's true.
And, she doesn't need any of this, by the way, because she has her own money.
Mm-hmm. And Kay kind of annoys me in this. Kay is the lady, she is helping Bobby with all this stuff. So April's all mad and she starts ignoring Bobby because, again, she's emotional and crazy. But Kay is kind of all like, she knows they're in a relationship and yet she kind of basically offers to sleep with him. Yeah. And he's like, no, I can't do that. And it's just like this whole big weird thing. And I was just like, okay, I don't really...
Yeah, it was weird. And Bobby asks April to marry him.
Right.
And she says yes, but then they break up twice within 24 hours.
Yeah. And it gets even weirder with Bobby and April here going forward. But and at this point is when too there's like the whole that they're doing a business deal at the hotel and JR's with the woman from the committee. And James is with them, and then Callie shows up. So he saves JR from
pretend
Callie.
He was the one that was with the woman.
And then of course Michelle, who he's dating, she walks in, and this woman's half naked, and he's half naked, and she thinks that he is lying, and then they break up.
And they have drama.
Yes.
And Cliff gets a mysterious magazine in the mail or whatever with his face on it and a phone number inside. And so he goes to meet this person, and this character is Stephanie Rogers, who played by Leslie Ann Down,
who I love because she's in North and South.
And she's who in North and South?
She is. Hold on, Madeline. Okay, that's her name, Madeline.
Patrick Swayze's.
Yep, I was thinking his name, and then I'm like, what is it together, Madeline?
She looks so much younger on Dallas than she did.
She does, which is weird because it's 5-6 years later.
Yeah, but she looks great.
We kind of skipped over a little part, or if you were going to come back to it, but. There's an episode that had me all up in my feels and crying. And I just wrote down Cliff has a conscience. And I realized why I wrote that. Because Cliff was the head of this committee who was to decide whether the Ewing thing was... And he's out of Ewing oil. He's always wanted to stick it to JR. All the things. Well, some guy finally comes forward... And there's some kind of evidence basically that, because during this time also, Carter tricked Cliff into sleeping with his wife and videotaped it. And the whole thing was so bizarre. So that woman who came back and then she's all, Carter loves me. But here's what I need you to do. And she's like, what? And then she does it. And then tape it. Mad. And they tape it.
Yeah.
Bobby finds out about this too, that there's this tape. And I wrote down Coast Guard, which means, so the Coast Guard came along and he knew whatever bit of information made it so that this was a total accident. The Ewings were not at fault. So this comes to light and only Cliff hears this information. And Bobby has a conversation with him. And he's just like, because earlier when he left Ewing Oil, we're not family anymore. Get away. You'll never see my son again. Blah, blah, blah. And then he goes to talk to Cliff and he's like, you'll always be Christopher's uncle. You'll, da-da-da-da. And they kind of have this heart to heart. Well, then the committee meeting comes up. So Cliff has the information to clear them. But no one else knows this. So he could just say whatever. Yeah. And they're in the room and he's thinking about it. And he's like, I've gotten this information, da-da-da-da-da. And him and Bobby have a eye contact across the room, and I'm hysterically crying at this point. Because it was like that whole nod to each other, like, yep, we're still brothers. See, I'm going to cry. I'm like, that's just, I was like, oh,
this
these
is his chance that he's been waiting for 13 seasons to destroy the Ewings. He could do it in 2 seconds.
Yep.
And he's like, no,
but
Bobby's
his
my
love
brother.
for Pam is stronger than that. And he knows Bobby's a good guy. And Christopher's his nephew. And
I mean, Cliff just seems tired at this point.
That's true.
He's like, I just want to settle down and like be normal.
Be done and stop fighting JR.
Right? Yeah.
So I had to put that part in there because that was like, I think the only part of the season where I cried.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a part with Christopher later on.
Oh, maybe. You're right.
So Bobby sees a woman that looks not a lot like Pam.
Okay, we have to talk about this though. Remember the Pam that Cliff found when he found out she was really alive? Yes. That's what Pam is supposed to.
Why didn't you use that? Like, why didn't you use this lady for that lady?
That, actually, it's not the same lady, is it?
No.
I think I looked it up later.
No.
Okay, but this lady looks like that lady. More so than Victoria Principal. Right. So I really was like, when he's like spitting image, and at one point he shows this woman a picture and she's like, that's me.
Oh my God.
I was like,
screamed.
I'm like,
he's like, here, let me show you this picture. And she's like, that's me. And he's like, no, that's my wife.
My dead wife.
You don't think that's you.
Well, so that's kind of why I was like, okay, so this woman does look like that woman who then became Pam.
Okay. It's willing suspension.
Yes.
It's fine. You're not going to get someone who looks exactly like
But either way, this whole thing is bizarre.
It's so bizarre. And she's a real estate agent.
Yeah.
So he's just wasting all her time.
He starts looking at houses. She doesn't even know this yet.
No.
He starts asking to see houses so he can keep seeing her. And it's so bizarre. And then, she's telling some girlfriend of hers, like, oh, Bobby Ewing.
Yeah, I'm dating Bobby Ewing.
She's like, good, girl, you go get it.
She doesn't seem to care about Bobby Ewing at all. She's just like, I might marry Bobby Ewing.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, be rich then, lady.
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
It's very bizarre.
But then he eventually is like, it's because you look like my dead wife.
And he straight up asks April to wait for him while he dates Pam and works on his stuff.
Seriously. He's like, Bobby and April, they're broken up, and then April sees him at the club, the dance club with not Pam. And then he comes to April's apartment and he's like, you're going to have to let me date not Pam for a while. And then we can get married. Okie dokie.
Exactly.
And she's like, no.
She's like, get out.
Which is good for her.
Yeah,
no, sir.
No.
He's like, I have to work out this stuff with someone who looks exactly like my ex-wife, who I'm not over.
And not Pam is all about it for a while. She's just like, I'll just be Pam for him. She wears her same clothes.
That's
and
right.
looks exactly like her on some date. I mean, because they went to like a hay rack ride and something weird.
And she's like, I bought this dress because Pam wore it at something or other.
And she's like, I'll be Pam for you.
Bobby, I'll be Pam for you.
I was like, hey,
and Natalie, you be Pam for Bobby.
I'll be Pam for Bobby. Yeah.
That's
and they sleep together. And I'm just like, this is so bizarre.
It's crazy.
I mean, and at that point, aren't you like, okay, now I'm done?
I would be done.
Because that wouldn't be the same.
Yeah.
So, so weird.
We'd be
Bobby.
Done. We'd be done.
Bobby.
So there's a guy that comes on, Blackie. He comes around for a while. And he's played by Denver Pyle, who plays Uncle Jesse on Dukes of Hazzard. That's who that guy is.
Yes.
And then James is doing business with this guy Carlisle, because he wants to prove to his daddy, JR, that he can be a business guy on his own.
Yes.
Because JR doesn't believe in him. And so Carlisle introduces him to his daughter, Belinda Carlisle. Which I
can't believe I didn't put that together until
she said my name. Yeah, he's like, this is my daughter, Belinda Carlisle. And I'm like, does anybody know? I mean, it's like, what, like 1991?
Yeah.
We already know who Belinda Carlisle is.
That's true.
You did this on purpose, right?
Interesting.
So Callie and Shelley and April and Lucy, they all meet up at the dance club. Like, this is at the same time that not Pam is at the dance club with Bobby, I think. And they all meet up at the dance club and they get into a drink throwing fight.
That's right.
And then at the same time, JR and James are in the South Fork kitchen and they almost get into fisticuffs.
That's right, because that's when, Callie hates April now because, she slept with JR 1,000 years ago. And then everybody...
They're just throwing insults at each other.
Yeah, nobody knows why they're all mad at each other. And this is when April and Michelle decide they want to buy a warehouse and create a singles club.
Yes.
And so that's also bizarre. But I totally I always forgot about the drink throwing and all the craziness.
That was very much us because they were like, we're going to start our own club and it's going to be members only. But they just happen to have money.
Yeah, exactly. We always had ideas that people stole because we never had the money.
So Stephanie Rogers takes the parking spot that JR wanted because he's going to see her. And she pulls him to the spot, but he wanted to park there. And so he said... He doesn't know who she is.
Yeah.
So she gets out and he's like, why aren't you at home making lunch for your husband?
Oh, JR.
JR. And Clayton and Miss Ellie now are in a new murder mystery.
A whole murder. I wrote, Clayton, Miss Ellie, murder upon murder. And I wrote Atticus story, exclamation points.
The Atticus story, so there's a friend of Clayton's and also of...
Carter
McKay's somehow, even though Clayton came from wherever.
Yeah.
And they're reading the friend's will. He's reading it on the
Atticus
TV.
is allegedly dead.
Right.
And he's got a video will that's being read in front of all of these people. He has a twin brother and then 2 other guys who I can't remember at this point how they're all.
Doesn't matter.
And he leaves everything to the one guy.
Right.
And then almost instantly, the lights go out and that guy drank poisoned milk or something bizarre.
Poisoned milk.
Oh my God. It was so weird. And then they're all saying in back channels, if I was the next guy, I would be worried. And it's very,
because the next guy down the line gets the money.
Yes.
So they all keep dying in succession.
Yes.
And then it's supposed to be Clayton.
And then, Miss Ellie and Clayton are trying to figure out, we don't think, because remember, Atticus had a weird pulling on his ear tick or something. So now they think that the twin that's alive is actually Atticus. And then that's what comes to fruition. But then that guy ends up in a fish tank, which is horrifying.
That scene was so horrifying.
And is that when the Atticus, they actually find him on a deserted island and he comes back? Because
Atticus supposedly had... drown in a boating accident or something.
But for real, he had totally Gilligan's Island and so he technically wasn't in on the whole thing.
I was so confused by the time they did the pull off the Scooby-Doo mask and tell us who the murderer was.
Yes.
I was so confused.
Well, because then they're at the oil barons and you see someone doctoring a drink and then they're all over there and it's Clayton's drink. Yeah. Well, somebody runs into Atticus, and then he takes Clayton's
drink.
Atticus,
it's his twin.
Yeah. Well, no, at this point, I think it is finally Atticus. It's the guy who actually came from the deserted island.
Maybe. I don't even know.
Because then he's then he drinks it, and it's poisoned, and he dies.
Immediately.
And then everyone was like, that was your drink, Clayton.
Yeah, Miss Ellie's like, oh my God, Clayton.
And so now they're in protective custody in a hotel. With a guard at the door who just can sleep at any point.
I love the points in this season where they have security. And I'm like, you should have had security this entire time.
Also, don't you live out in the middle of nowhere on South Fork Ranch where you could hire, apparently JR's in charge of the whole police department at multiple times. I get you don't want to put the family in danger. But if they're just trying to kill you, guess what? That's what's going to happen.
People at the gate even.
And so he's got I love the guard is outside the hotel room door and then gets poisoned, of course. And
then we find out who it is.
I literally wrote down, oh, geez. Now Dusty's in the mix and Jessica comes back because she's the murderer.
She's the murderer. Because she's Dusty's real mom. Where are we? Hold on.
Jessica shows up to try to kill Clayton in the hotel room and he sees her and then she runs away and
she was supposed to be in an asylum.
Yes.
Because remember that she had done whatever
she tried to set the house on fire, killed Clayton's first wife. And...
So she was the murderer all along because she wanted old Dusty Farlow, Dustman, to have his inheritance.
Yes.
And because apparently Atticus was his real father.
Atticus is his dad, yeah.
And It was so weird.
The whole thing's bizarre. They finally catch up with her. And, of course, Clayton's all like, oh, my poor sister Jessica. And then she also gets put back into a sanitarium, which comes into play later.
It sure does. And JR, through all of this while they're doing the murder mystery, JR doesn't like being happy. So he's hatched a plan to get rid of Callie by having their marriage counselor talk her into getting a divorce, basically. And it's not working because she's hard-headed.
Yeah.
And finally it does work, but she doesn't want him to know. Well, she storms out of South Fork, and then John Ross is sad because he doesn't want her to leave.
She's going to leave because she finds out all the stuff that's happening, and John Ross has a meltdown. And he's just like, oh, please no. My mom's already gone and you're the only one. And JR, of course, sees this and then caves and is like, I didn't want you to leave, Callie. Which is a lie.
Right. So then JR is like, okay, you can stay. But then Bobby announces to the family that he and April are getting married in a month. And so Teresa better get in gear.
Exactly.
They need to do a wedding.
Start getting organized for a South Fork wedding.
She's probably like, you know what? I'll just pull out the wedding stuff for the weddings that we have. So Christopher, this was the emotional part for me. Christopher says, it'll be neat to have a mom again. And that poor baby.
He's so sad.
And okay, John Ross is just being a little crap weasel. He's all, well, I get to see my mom in London, and you never been to London, and
you don't even have a mom.
Yeah, you don't even have a mom, and he's so mean. I just wanted to say one more time, remember when Bobby bought Christopher and accidentally gave him to Pam as a present?
Yes. Oh, yes. Oh, Bobby, you brought me a baby. That video, I have seen it on random Dallas Facebook pages too. And she's hysterical and he's in the back behind her oh crap.
Oh, crap. This isn't for you. This is for somebody else. But okay.
Oh, poor Christopher.
Oh, I can't breathe. Okay.
Yes.
So then James tells JR that he's going to marry Michelle. And JR goes to pay her off. And it's like, you're not, and she's like, well, I'm getting married to James?
Oh, hey.
So she's all surprised and she gets all excited. And when James comes over, she's all hugging on him. And she's like, I can't believe it. And he's like, no, it was fake.
Yeah. I was trying to screw with JR.
Right. So a typical woman of the 90s. She goes ballistic because all she cares about is marriage.
Yes.
Although she didn't before, but whatever.
Right.
And then she leaves the show.
And JR's been screwing with James anyway, messes up the warehouse deal. There's all of that going on. And that was to mess with him and Michelle. And then he ends up getting it. I'm pretty sure wasn't JR involved in the fact that she got some job
He had the guy who was trying to develop the place.
Yes.
Hire her to move to Japan or
somewhere
something.
else, yeah.
So let's see.
But this is where James and Callie decide to screw with JR.
Yes, that's great.
And Callie's pregnant.
Yeah, which we don't get to see the end of that. But yeah, she's pregnant and she wants to go back home. And
she's like, I want to go raise my baby in Haleyville.
Which is not normal because Haleyville is weird.
Yeah.
And why would you want to?
And she's just legit I don't want this man to be part of him. Yeah, I don't want him to know. I don't want him to be part of this. But then she's sad because her parents died when she was little. So she's like, oh man, I want my kid to know their dad. And so there's a whole big weird thing there.
Yeah, because everybody is going away to different countries.
Yeah, at the end it gets
leaving
crazy.
Her all alone at South Fork. And which sounds amazing to me. I don't know why you wouldn't want to be in a giant house by yourself with staff.
Right, exactly.
Except JR doesn't go anywhere.
No, I did write too, and I can't remember why, but I wrote, who the hell are the flower girls at the wedding? So apparently there were some little cute girls, and
maybe,
I was
like cousins
people's friends, yes. Oh, and also this is when Clayton gets his voting shares in Westar. And him and Carter have been making some kind of weird deal after the whole Atticus thing. And then that's when JR realizes he needs to get Jessica's signature to get those shares back because they're technically Rusty's shares.
Dusty. His name is Dusty.
Dusty is what I said. I didn't say Rusty.
He's not Rusty. He's Dusty.
He's Rusty Dusty.
He's Dusty Rusty.
So he's trying to get her signature. But that's when, Bobby and April are getting married.
Yeah, they get married and it's all quick and there's no drama and they just get married.
Right, which never happens at a Ewing wedding. But
where is the big wedding that we wanted?
And that's when we find out people are, like everyone's going to be leaving to go to different places. Lucy's moving to London to help with Alex's, what's that called? Art gallery. And Miss Ellie and Clayton are leaving town, of course, because they get to do that all the time. And they're old and retired. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when JR basically tells Callie after everyone leaves, because he didn't ever wanted to upset Mama or anybody else. And everyone leaves.
John Ross has gone to London.
That's right. And he took Christopher with him to visit Aunt Sue Ellen. So that was the other. So I guess he was nice, finally at that point. Oh, you don't have a mom. Come see mine. So JR basically was like, you have a week to get out of my house to Callie. Mm-hmm. And that's when she was kind of like, oh, well, this guy, I guess I'm going to go. And then that's when JR gets himself committed to the mental institution.
Yeah, because he has Callie sign the paper.
Yes.
Committing him. And she's just like, sure, I'll sign it.
She didn't even know what it was. Yeah. And he gets committed and he's got instructions for his lawyer because he's going to get Jessica's signature. There's a guy, he plays Morrissey in the Looney Bin. And he's kind of a hothead guy who I think's in for murder.
Yes.
Played by Mitch Pileggi is his name. And sorry,
what's the mic?
I knew this ahead of time. And then when I read a recap online, they had this as a special note. Also, Mitch Pileggi later plays in the Dallas reboot in 2011, 12, 13, or whatever the years. And he is a prominent figure. Wow. So I recognized him right away. I was like, oh my God, this guy has come on later.
He must know someone. He must be like somebody's buddy. And they're like, you want to be on the show?
Yep. Yeah. And then he's like, hey. And then they're like, 20 years later, they're like, come on in.
Because he's not there very long. No. And it's really weird why he's in there.
Yeah. It's very strange. And
it's really creepy, too. The whole asylum thing is creepy.
Yeah. One of the doctors in the institution, he also played Rose's boyfriend, Miles, on Golden Girls.
Yes. And so JR has given a sealed envelope to Sly to open in so many weeks or whatever, so that it's like his release papers.
Yeah.
Or whatever.
In case something goes wrong.
Right. And like James knows about like this secret envelope, so he takes Sly out to the bar and roofies her. She's drinking a beer that looks like a Budweiser, but the label says Bodmeiser.
I was thinking that too. I was like, does it actually say Budweiser? I'm like, no.
Not. It was funny. But yeah, he roofies her and then he takes her home and puts her in bed and like steals the letter and like replaces it with something else.
Yeah, replaces it with a different one, and he takes it so he can know what's really going on. And the fact is there's another layer because they have to convince the lawyer to give them access or something. And basically they're like, do you want J.R. Ewing to know that you didn't give his wife access or something crazy? And they get all crazy about it.
James goes to the asylum and JR's like, oh, yay.
Oh, now you have my release papers.
And he's like, nah.
You're going to need to sign this first. And he basically signed off. What did he have JR sign off on? That he wouldn't... Did he tell him about the baby, or was it a divorce?
No, he didn't. I think it was the divorce, and it was like alimony or something.
That's right. And he's like, otherwise you don't get out. And he's like, oh, when I get out of here, blah, blah, blah. And then he's like, what are you doing? Give me those papers. He's like, nah.
No thanks.
You can just stay in here and rot.
So at the end of the season, JR is still in the asylum.
Yes.
Which is great.
Which is... so interesting. And my brain has told me something different. I was somehow thinking, and that might come back up. I guess I'll know when I watch the next season. Although after this, I wrote a whole line about how an old teammate of Bobby's sister comes to town and hangs out with Cliff and knows McKay. I forgot about that whole storyline. This woman comes into town and she was some teammate of Bobby's sister.
Oh, yeah, that was so random.
And she wants to learn the oil business. Now she's hanging out with Cliff and basically dating him. And her and Carter McKay had a weird exchange. And now they're both like, we won't tell anybody we know each other.
That's
and it's
right.
so strange. And I wrote that as an afterthought, which is weird because that
I know, and I was like, am I supposed to know this lady? Maybe she's from an earlier season.
Right. It was very weird. And that whole thing, because of course you have to introduce new people who know new characters, because Carter's a fairly new character in the series. I did want to say how funny it is too, though, while JR's in the sanitarium, he he ends up getting Jessica's signature, but he has to go through a lot, including getting bypassed to the woman who's like a sex fiend.
Yeah, she's a nymphomaniac. And why does everyone have him? Everyone has fancy clothes in this place because the directors seem to think it's a good idea to have like a dance, but they also force these people to dance with each other because there's the men's side and the women's side.
It's like the 7th grade dance, but so very weird. Yeah.
Yeah, and everybody shows up in like full makeup and heels and stuff, and I'm like, and JR wears a suit half the time.
Well, and JR convinces Jessica that he's just there visiting, like that he's not actually in the institution. And but then then finally what he does, he's like starts some kind of like brawl, and that's how he kind of gets bypassed out to do something else. And JR will stop at nothing for power. It's just hilarious. But, you have to have multiple safeguards in place. Kind of like when he was in prison in Haleyville. Yeah. And Bobby's like, oh, no, he's with some girle.
Exactly.
I mean,
nobody
this
knows
was
where
like.
You are. And nobody knows where he is now except James.
Right. Because the lawyer gave up information. I mean, I'm thinking, though, too. Yeah, some lawyers got to know. Or was it just the note that Sly had was supposed to be given to his lawyer?
Given to the lawyer. Because nobody knows he's there. Sly doesn't even know he's there.
That's right.
Because she never opened the letter.
I was thinking they had to convince a lawyer, but that was a whole different thing. That was Callie when she manipulated somebody when she took pictures of him or whatever, when she had him attacked. That was like a whole thing.
Yeah, she had the lawyer like fall on top of her.
Yeah.
And then James took pictures. Yeah.
That's right.
That was amazing.
So yeah, no one knows JR's there. He's stuck in a sanitarium.
And that's where he is the end of the season.
To be continued.
TBC.
Can you even believe
we're almost
that Dallas season 14 is the last regular season of regular Dallas?
We're almost done. We've been doing this for a while.
I can't even believe it.
Can't even believe it. I'm really anxious to see. I need to know what happens. I need to know about Callie's baby. I need to know if JR's going to get, I know he's going to get out, but how is he going to get out? Nobody knows he's there. My
memory is so choppy right now about things that happen because I kind of know some stuff and I kind of don't remember stuff. So I'm excited to start season 14. Yay!
Okay, well, you can start tomorrow.
I know. And be done tomorrow.
All right.
It'll be super fun.
Do you have anything else to say about Dallas?
I think so.
All right, well, please follow us on the TikTok and join our Facebook group. Also, we have a Patreon at patreon.com/TV Tangents where you can hear all kinds of episodes that are TV related or not TV related. Like we did one on ghosts.
Yes, we did.
And we have one recently about a crazy story about Martians in the 20s. So
crazy stuff.
Tune in and you can join for as little as $2 a month and hear all our crazy past episodes and also get episodes early. So
yay.
I think we should wrap this up.
Let's do it.
I have heartburn from this
wine.
I
do too.
Oh, what is that?
Crazy.
Okay.
All right.
Wrap it up.
Clink.